Hello, everybody. Rick Manning, Americans for Limited Government here. California is doing it again. Big raises, we're going to raise the minimum wage on April 1 to $20 an hour. But what's happening, predictably, what we've said, is they're having massive layoffs of young people out of fast food jobs in particular. Why? It's not cost effective to pay somebody to train them to do a job where they're only going to be likely going to have a turnover rate every 3 months of having to turn over employees, $20 an hour. It's not a cost-effective way of doing things. And as a result, we're going to, as opposed to seeing the following kind of friendly face talking. Have it your way. Have it your Yeah, that's it. You're not going to be seeing the friendly face at the counter. You're going to see a kiosk. You're going to see. Here's what you're going to see instead: kiosk after kiosk, where you have to figure it out. And in this case, the article that this came from was about bacteria-laden kiosks being a health concern. Last time I checked, she wasn't a health concern, but what they're converting to is struggling with a kiosk to get your order, never dealing with a real person, and having to sit there and because they've raised the unemployment, they've raised the cost of making a burger to $20 an hour. You know, this is the future based upon this high minimum wage. And you know who these people are? They're replacing kids, replacing 16 to 19-year-olds trying to get their first job. Here's the unemployment rate for the 16 to 19-year-olds just nationwide. And you'll see there was April 2023 was the low point. This is the end of COVID here. And then you get from May of 2021, you get some bumps up, but it kind of remains steady, goes down again, and a couple of big lurches down to April 2023. And since then, it's been pretty much at the high. And we're seeing now 12.5% nationwide unemployment rate for kids 16 to 19. What's the rate in California? This is before figuring in the what you had in this minimum wage increase. They were already up to This is the overall unemployment rate in California. They're already up to 5.3%. National average is 3.9%. So California is running a 1.4% higher unemployment rate than the rest of the country on average, and that's only going to go up because guess what? Fast food workers are being laid off. That is just a fact. We know that Pizza Hut is laying off drivers. They're just not going to be delivering pizzas anymore. Now you might be able to go to DoorDash, but remember what else has California gone after? They've gone after gig workers and trying to make it so gig workers have to be employees, which means they're subject to $20 an hour as well. So your cost for getting a pizza delivered is going to go through the roof in California, thanks to the $20 an hour minimum wage. What's more, if I'm hiring, and we know this from a study of the increase of $15 an hour in Seattle, Washington, that was conducted a couple of years ago, we know that what happens is, in real life, is restaurants say, well, we're going to cut the number of employees we have, and we're going to keep the quote unquote best employees, but they're going to be there a lot longer. They're going to work longer hours as a result. We saw in the report out of Seattle on the $15 minimum wage in Seattle in King County, Washington, showed very clearly that there was about 60% of the unemployment. You had a massive increase in unemployment based upon that $15 minimum wage. So this is going to $20 an hour. You already have In-N-Out Burger saying we're going to close a location in Oakland because it's not profitable to run it at $20 an hour. So they're going to take a look at locations that are less profitable, where you might have more shrinkage, where you have it's harder to get employees. And they're going to say, you know what? We're not going to keep our stores open in those locations. When a state that already has problems with Walgreens and other places moving out because of the crime, imagine if you put into the Walgreens and Rite Aid equation, and everybody who stands at a counter, you got to pay them $20 an hour. The minute you put that equation into it, the cost of doing business in California for a lot of the small businesses and a lot of the businesses that are dependent upon retail employees and retail businesses, they're going to look at it and say, you know what? I can't afford this, or they'll have to raise their rates and they'll lose their business to Amazon. That's a hard reality. That's what they're pushing. That's what they're doing. And we're seeing this in California. And we know that what starts in California oftentimes ends up in the nation's capital. And it's dangerous, dangerous, dangerous. Let me just give you a personal story. When I was a kid, I worked in my parents' 7-Eleven when I was 14, 15 years old. And eventually I went and I got a job at a 7-Eleven that owned by somebody else. And I did the graveyard shift once I turned 18. And then I worked for Carl's Jr., which is a fast food chain. And I worked for Carl's Jr. for about 2 years while I was at Riverside City College and playing football, junk like that. And I worked there for about 2 years. And it's an entry-level job. It's getting experience, showing up on time, punching a time card, knowing that if you don't show up on time, you're letting your friends down, you're letting your workers down. It's a job where you're sitting there and it's fun. It's fun. It's a social atmosphere, but it also, just gets some muscle memory on how to do a job. And if you take that away from young people, because what young person are you going to pay $20 an hour to not show up to work half the time? I mean, this is part of the process of growing up and learning what being employed is. This is not supposed to be a career. It is, if you're in a career, you get into management and you make more money. But this is not supposed to be a career to be sitting there at the counter. It's a making some money in retirement kind of job, making some money to cover if you're unemployed and just kind of trying to do something to bridge. It's getting the first job of your life, a kind of job. And it's really difficult as a small businessman, as a franchise owner, to say, I'm going to pay a bunch of workers who are spending half their time out and hanging out by the trash bin to $20 an hour, who are unreliable to show up. Who I'm hiring at that point, I hire people who are second career. I move the whole thing to second career people, because ultimately I need people who are going to show up to work. And so it's great for a second career person, really bad if you're trying to start out and learn how to get a job and learn how to work. And when you take out the entry level jobs, the gateway jobs, the rest of your career, and you take those away because you price young people out of it, you are doing real harm to the future economy. And that's what California is doing. It's almost as if they are deliberately trying to subterfuge every job that a young person can have. They went after gig workers and they said, they're not being paid enough. They're actually independent contractors. We don't want them to be independent contractors. That teaches them that they can actually make a living outside of the controlled work system. So they try to force them into being in the controlled work system. Then they say, well, we're going to tell the controlled work system that you have to pay them $20 an hour, at which point you can't afford to pay them. That's the problem. That's what they're doing is disastrous. And unfortunately, the young people of California are going to pay the price. This is Rick Manning, President of Americans for Limited Government. Hope you guys are doing well and have a blessed crucifixion, sacrifice day, dark day, and resurrection day on Easter Sunday. God bless.